We are Gold Ivy, a health company dedicated to simplifying health and wellness. The industry is lacking the honest experience and grit required to overcome the struggle, and we're here to fill that gap.
You decide what works for your daily life and how to transform our lessons into your gold. Join us on the fearless pursuit of self-discovery and growth.
This is Ivy Unleashed,
A Gold Ivy production.
Welcome back. You are listening to Ivy Unleashed. As always, we are so grateful that you are tuning in.
Yes,
If
welcome.
you are watching on YouTube, you'll see that we have someone in studio who is unlike anyone we've ever had on.
Yes.
He is here.
We have a man in the house.
Rayla, welcome to the building, to the studio. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
How's it feel to be the first male in here?
Groundbreaking.
Yeah?
It actually really is. Yeah, I was just telling Ray before this that my son yesterday said, Mommy, when are you going to have a boy on the podcast? And I was like, that's so funny you asked that because we decided we're going to have one tomorrow.
Yeah. You know, we have a lot of women listeners, but there's something about Ray and what he puts out there that we're like, we need this.
Yes.
On Ivy Unleashed. So let's give him a formal introduction. Who is Ray?
Ray, I know Ray. I've known Ray for, a while now. Before pre-kids for Ray, I guess.
6 years maybe.
But I like to tell people how I met Ray because it was my turn to give the birthday treat for the next person at our place of work. And so I went over to his cubicle, hadn't met him before, and I said, hey, I hear it's your birthday soon. What would you like for a treat? I'm in charge of bringing it in. He goes, I don't know, but I don't want any effing chocolate. And I was like, nice to meet you. Did your parents name you Ray because you're a ray of sunshine or wow? And so that's how I met Ray. And then from there, it kind of turned into like, oh, he's actually a lot softer of a guy than I thought. He loves his wife and he started having kids and they made him even softer. And so now I watch Ray crush life. He is running the craziest races, constantly pushing himself, doing all kinds of awesome endurance things, strength training things, a wild variety of things. I can't wait to get into it.
Do you remember that?
I do. You got me, I think, bacon jerky, didn't you?
Yes. Oh, and some type of spicy nuts.
Oh, the wasabi.
Sriracha nuts?
Yeah, no, wasabi soy almonds.
Okay.
What do you got against chocolate?
I just hate it with a passion.
Really?
Interesting. You're more sour than sweet.
Salty.
Salty.
Salty, yeah.
Sour. That might have, I don't know, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the vibe he gives off is a little sour.
Oh, come on.
Just kidding. I say that because you watch Ray on Instagram and on social media, and he's just a tough love, hard hitter, no excuses, which a lot of the podcasts we've done up to this point are all about listening to your truth, owning who you are, and we're taking a different approach today. So if you could use a little tough love to get your ass moving in 2021, or as we're calling it, 21, this episode is for you.
Yes.
So Ray, he has a master's in exercise physiology, certified personal trainer, and doing some crazy shit. So tell us, Ray. Tell us about yourself. Who are you? What are you doing?
Okay. I mean, you've kind of covered it. I'm a husband, a dad, and I like to work out and drink whiskey. I mean, that's kind of my hobbies right now, and I like that. And getting into the crazy stuff, it was just kind of what's next? What haven't I done? Mm-hmm. Let's do something fun.
Yeah.
And along the route, I found what I like to do, what I don't like to do, what I have to do, even though I don't like it, that kind of stuff. And it's just been an interesting, well, Sutton's going to be 4, so it's been 4 years. So
yeah.
4 years since you started getting into this?
Well, since I pulled my head out of my ass, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's unpack that.
Yes. I want to talk about that. Let's unpack that because when your wife was pregnant with Sutton, you started making some changes. And so I want to hear about that and how that process went for you.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it before the podcast, the hill my wife will die on. This is kind of my hill I'll die on. Before I had kids, I really didn't feel this way. But now with both of them, like it's really hit home. It's like, I feel you have a moral obligation to be healthy if you're going to be a parent. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like my aha moment, like 4 years ago. I was like, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah. So what kind of shape are you in? So this was post-wedding, pre-baby, or like right as she got pregnant, or when was that moment and what did that look like?
So the moment was, Eric. We were leaving the birthday party at his house. It was like 2:00 in the morning. She was 9 months pregnant, so I had a DD, which was fantastic.
Nice.
And
Shout out Jolene, driving him around.
I was like, let's go to Perkins. And she's like, yeah, we won't be able to do this. Like, so we went there, and like, I woke up the next morning. I'm like, I cannot do this. I think I weighed like 275 pounds that morning. And I was like, I'm done. Messaged somebody who was my nutrition coach, and I was like, we're starting today.
Wow.
And went from there.
Yeah. How did you pick your nutrition coach? Like, how did you know what you wanted to do with food?
I've known like macros work for me.
Okay.
And because it's flexible and I can't do like super rigid stuff. So I went with John Gorman. I knew him through First Form. Set the plan, worked the plan. Didn't drink for a year. And that was more so just because like the month leading up to Sutton being born, I'm like, I'm not going to drink so I can drive to the hospital. And then I was just like, let's see how long we can roll this.
Yeah.
So, and did a year, and then.
How much did you lose in that year from just cutting that out and doing macros?
I think around 275 to like, I think my low that year was around 200.
Wow.
75 pounds.
Yep.
From cutting alcohol and really just watching what you're eating, counting your macros.
Just, hitting them daily.
So I'm curious, you said your aha moment was you woke up the morning after Perkins. How are you feeling in that moment?
Oh, like a dumpster fire. It was bad. It was hungover. Like I looked like a tick about to pop. I was so bloated from like Perkins and then, all the booze. And I think we ate like 12 pounds of meat and cheese at Eric's that night. So it was a hot mess express. And I'm just like, I can't do this if like I want to be a good dad and, a good husband.
Yeah.
So,
but a whole year and 75 pounds, like you had to have had some resistance to it or some like, to switch. Like, was it really a snap or was it a battle? What was that like throughout that process?
I mean, it wasn't like a straight year of losing weight either. Like we would diet hard for 16 weeks and then maintain that weight for a couple of weeks and then go back to it. So, I mean, there was some breaks. Yeah, of course, there was times where I was like, God, I just want to crush some pizza and drink 14 beers, like watching college football on a Saturday.
Right.
Like that's what I've done for the last 30 years of my life.
To unlearn that and to change what you're doing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's easy now, like when it's time to flip the switch and like be serious. But it took, 4 years of working on that to develop that.
Yeah. So you have the physical change and then the mental change kind of together. And I feel like that's super hard when you're probably watching your body change. You're making these decisions, but it sounds like you kind of had more, like you said, a flexible approach where you kind of were really diligent and then backed off a little bit and diligent. Was it always food or was it a combination of food and exercise or what was that like?
So I've always been like full gas on the exercise. I mean, I was a pretty high level power lifter when I was in my early 20s. And that never really stopped. So the reason I put on a lot of weight is I got injured duck hunting. Weirdest thing ever.
How do you get injured duck hunting?
So I was hunting by myself in a body of water I didn't know.
Is this an extreme sport I don't know about?
No. Duck hunting? No, so my boat, I hit something. It ripped off the prop.
Oh.
So I had to walk my boat along the shore back to the boat landing, and I was in waders. Oh. And it was like 75 degrees. I hurt my back and couldn't work out for like 2 months. And
okay.
Bad thing, we still do like 5 blocks from a Buffalo Wild Wings. And so
you wanted those boneless.
Oh, no, I'm a bone in, extra crispy.
Same.
Okay.
Same. Asian zing.
No,
good
honey
one.
barbecue all the way.
So you're in this battle, you're going kind of flexible on it. And so that year, did that kind of propel what you're doing now? I mean, that was 4 years ago. What's it like? Like, how has that transition been from that year to these following years?
I mean, that year I was still kind of a bitch. Like, as far as like being used to being uncomfortable. And then that's kind of like 2 years ago is like kind of when I started to turn the corner. And I think this last year, I feel bad saying this, but 2020 was the best year of my life.
Really?
Hands down.
Why?
Just got out of a horrible situation where I was working. Me and Knox really didn't have a relationship before the lockdown because I'd leave for work at 4 a.m. and get home at 7. So he didn't really know me.
Your son?
Yeah. So, being home for 10 weeks, and the kids didn't go to daycare a lot during that time. And it was just like, we got to know each other. And now he's like my shadow sometimes.
That's
I have
awesome.
chills.
And he looks just like you too. So cute. Both your kids are adorable. That's amazing. Well, I love hearing too, because, you know, following you on social media, you do a really good job of helping people by having these pictures of you. Like, you are jacked. You've got the tats. You've got it all together, right? But I love when you post a picture and you're like, this is not how I always feel on the inside. Like, I'm still figuring out this outside thing, where you have these battles inside, and you, I think, do a really good job of helping people that look at you and probably have this misconception. So can you touch on that and like why you do that and why you feel like that's so important?
I'm not going, like, I used to be scared to like actually be who I was, because I was so worried about like, oh, am I going to lose followers because of this? And like, I don't care anymore. And that, I mean, me and Jolene were talking about that. Like, I'm treating social media like it's mine now, and I'm not doing it for anybody else. So it's like my journal. If like I'm feeling something, I'll post. I used to post like twice a day. Now it's like, if I don't feel like saying something, I'm not going to say something just to say something. And with the tattoos and stuff too, it's like, is this me? Like, cause sometimes like I feel, you know, like, am I a sleeve tattoo guy? Like,
I guess so. It's happening.
now you are.
Look at it.
It's not going anywhere. And like this sleeve, like the whole thing means something to me. So that's another thing where it's like, okay, it's not just a bunch of, you know, fluffy unicorns on there. So
Yeah.
it actually means something. So that was important. And then I think people get to the point where they're like, I'm so far away from where I want to be that it's not going to happen. And I mean, I felt that way when I was 275. I was like, when I get to 200, I'm going to be jacked. You get there and you're like, nope. So, you know, showing that, you know, if you have, let's say 100 pounds to lose, you can do it. It's going to take some work, but like people, I think, need to see it more. And there will be some people who shit on like before and afters, but if you don't have those, you know, how is, you know, the 40-year-old dad in South Texas going to even think it's possible if he doesn't see that it's possible with somebody was in the exact same situation?
Right.
Right.
So like, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's that idea. If they can do it, why the hell can't I?
Yeah. And I mean, 99 people out of 100 who need to lose 100 pounds can do it. It's just the A, you're going to need somebody to help you. And B, you just got to get past the first 20 days, I think, is the hardest part.
Oh, okay. So who helped you? I mean, you mentioned the dietitian that you worked with. Who else did you have for support or guidance?
Well, I mean, like Jolene, like if I was not married to her, I don't think any of this would have happened.
That's awesome.
Like, she brings out the best in me 100% of the time. So, and that's, you know, without her, it wouldn't have happened.
That's amazing. Yeah. And she is always challenging herself too. It's super cool to see like her transformation from being in these body competitions to being a mom to being back to fit. Like, she's been fit through the whole thing. It's pretty cool. And you can just tell that you guys have that relationship that's exactly what people talk about, social support, and why it's so crucial. So was it always like that for you guys? Or like before you lost the weight, was she supportive of your health? Was she trying to influence you to change? Where was she at kind of on that?
No, so I hate our wedding pictures because I was, you know, 75 pounds heavier than I am right now. Well, maybe 90. And I hate our engagement pictures because I was even heavier. And I was like, can we please get these retaken?
Yeah.
And she's like, no. And I was like, so she's never like, now she'll see a picture of me now versus before. And she'd be like, I never saw you like that. I was like, you must've been drunk the whole time.
So she loves you.
Yeah.
It's true love.
So
No matter what size you are. That's awesome.
Yeah, something I want to touch on, you talk about kind of the identity and saying, yes, I can, and looking at yourself from that outside perspective, right? We talk a lot about this idea of the thermostat that we mentioned on a previous episode of, if you're doing all this work, but your identity is still set below, you'll never reach it. So I'm curious how you kind of went through that inner battle of identifying with, no, I am someone who eats healthy. I am someone who works out. I can do this. What did that look like, that self-talk?
So that's something I've been talking to my clients a lot about lately, especially people coming on new that have a lot of work to do. And it kind of goes into like one of my pet peeves where people are like, you need to love yourself, blah, 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 blah. But like, imagine you have a friend who constantly lies to you, never shows up, and never follows through. Do you love that person? Probably not. You're going to treat them like shit too. Right? So that was me. Like I didn't love myself. And I think that you have to earn that back. Oh. Because like I said, like, are you going to stay with someone who lies to you, doesn't show up, constantly lets you down? Mm-hmm. No. So, I mean, I think that's something where once you earn that back, I think you never want to lose it, and you will do whatever you can to make sure you never lose that.
That's such a great point, and such a great like visualization to think about. Like we talk about sometimes, like when we're talking negatively to ourselves, like, will we talk to a friend like this? No. So stop beating yourself up that way, but also like stop lying to yourself. You feel like crap, drop the excuses, get to work, get on the treadmill, get outside, lift the weights, whatever you need to do, drop the pizza. I mean, I'm never going to totally drop pizza, but start filling yourself up with these nutritious foods, start moving your body to show yourself that this is what I need to do. If I love myself, then I need to take care of myself, and I need to stop lying about how I deserve an extra 16 helpings of something that I know I'm filling some void. Like, what's the void? Let's figure out how to fill that some other way that could kind of be more, beneficial to my health and well-being.
Yeah. And the other night, like, I was mad at myself because, like, well, not mad, but like for the month of December and January, I've basically eaten like a child. But my weight's been steady, but I was talking to myself and I was like, because I will talk out loud when I'm running. And she's like, you can't say that in front of the kids. I'm like, I'm holding myself accountable. Like, and that's the other thing. Like, if you truly love someone, and me and Jolene are at this point now where if you're going to give them feedback about something, or you can't beat around the bush. You can't be wishy-washy about it, because if you're not direct with people, and this is one thing like people either love about me or hate about me, is I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear. Mm-hmm. Because if I beat around the bush around it and you don't get the message and you're set back another month, I don't care about you. Like, I'd rather hurt your feelings and you get the point across and like get healthier and, get things going in the right direction than constantly worry about your feelings and you don't make any progress.
Which is like your shirt right in front of me here. Nobody cares. Work harder. Yeah. I think that there's that tricky balance though of like, some people are in a relationship that it's not as loving as yours. Like you and Jolene are ride or die, right? Yep. You know that. So of course she can give you some feedback that's might be hard to hear. But some people are in relationships that are not healthy and there isn't a lot of love, and maybe they're fat shaming you, or
things don't like that. Have anyone. Yeah. What do you say to those people who, when you ask them about their social support, it's you. They don't have anyone else.
And that's what I'll be like, okay, I'm here. Like, I wake up at 4, but I go to bed at 8. If you need me, text me, I'll get back to you. And I'm pretty quick about it. And that's one thing Jolene hates. She's like, you're always on your phone. But I'm like, I'm working. So that's one thing. And then, I mean, unpopular opinion, like if you're in a relationship with someone who treats you like shit, leave. Mm-hmm. I know it sounds easier.
I wish that was a popular opinion, because you should leave. Get out of there.
Right. And I think some of the, I sound like an ass saying this, but some of the worst people I've indirectly met are husband or wives of clients. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world. So that's one thing I ask clients when they come on, and like, is your husband or wife supportive of you doing this? Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, no. Okay, you guys figure this out over the next month and then get back to me, because it's not going to work if they're not on board.
Right.
That's a good point.
Definitely makes it harder for sure.
100%.
I'm curious how you earned that love back with yourself. Going back to that.
So this concept really didn't evolve until probably in the last year and a half or so, because I didn't realize what happened. Like, so I had to like unpack it a little bit, but it's just keeping promises you make to yourself, I think, is the biggest thing. Because every time you break it, you lose less trust in yourself. Mm-hmm. So it was just year over year over year being like, okay, I've continued to do this. I can take a break if I need to and get right back onto it. And doing hard things, I think, was the biggest factor. Like, I think the turning point was the weekend. I don't know if you knew about this one, where I did a CrossFit competition Friday and Saturday, and then I PR'd my half marathon that Sunday.
Wow.
Holy shit.
And like, Jolene was driving me to the starting line at the Link Minnetonka half marathon. And I looked at her and I'm like, I think I bit off more than I could chew, because my legs like were
Jello.
Right.
They were the sorest they've ever been.
And then you're about to run a half marathon.
Yep. And like I warmed up and I was like, oh, let's just go. And like I didn't look at my watch for the first 3 miles. And then at the 3 mile mark, I looked down. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Did you have a goal in mind, or were you like, I'm just going to complete this because I just did a competition?
No, I wanted to PR.
Okay. Did you say to yourself, nobody cares, work harder?
I didn't have that phrase yet. I didn't know that yet. But now I would. So, well, Cam, this is Cam Haynes. We were talking about a little bit. He's a professional bow hunter, does a bunch of crazy stuff. And then he also has a saying that's called keep hammering. So that was I had that back then. And that was kind of like my mantra when I run is just keep hammering, keep hammering. So
I'm going to use
that.
I love that. I just signed up for a marathon. I'm excited about it.
Kansas, right?
Yeah, Kansas coming for you, April 17th.
Okay.
Yeah. So I want to hear about your races and what you're up to.
So I'm training for my first 100 miler. It's in October.
You heard that right. 100. 100.
Wow.
Yeah,
How are you feeling about it?
I mean, it's going to suck and it's going to hurt, but I mean, it's like my last like bucket list thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I might as well do it.
Where is it?
Mine's in Spain. It's in Dubuque, Iowa. It's like in a nature park, like Elm Creek.
How does one decide that they're going to run 100 miles? What does that decide? Like when you're about to register, because I know what that feels like to be like, okay, when I click this and pay this money, that means it's go time. Like, what is that like compared? Because I know that you've done marathon. Like, what does that look like where you're about to click a marathon versus 100 miles?
2 to 3 bourbons before. That's usually most decisions in our house get made. But it was like, okay, are you doing this? Yes or no? Because when I signed up for my 50 miler that I did at in Squamish, which is right by Whistler in British Columbia, I was like, okay, if you're doing this, this is like, a $6,000 investment because you're going to fly there. We're going to stay there for a week. But this is like, okay, you're going to Dubuque, Iowa, like whatever. But it was, I mean, I think it's just like anything else. Like the first time you ran a half marathon, you thought that was hard. And now you ran 12 marathons and it's just like the next level of, okay, you're going to run for 24 hours and be miserable. And then it's over.
That's wild.
Just showing yourself that you can. And then in return, you're building more self-trust,
Yep.
self-love.
Right. I can't even imagine the mental battles you're going to have during that because it's a mind game to run a half. It's a mind game to run a full. Like, I can't even imagine what's going to happen during that, which I'm sure is part of what you're excited to experience because you know that it waterfalls into your day and your life and gives you perspective. I mean, when I gave birth, I literally thought of it like a marathon. I was like, okay, the contractions are going to get worse, just like as you get up to mile 24, it's getting worse and worse and worse. But right as you're about to push, you're at mile 25 and you're going to get a medal or a baby, And then it's super hard at the end. But I mean, I've used the marathon mentality for anything that gets hard in my life, and it's served me so well. So I can't even imagine, like, we're going to have you back on after you do this in October to hear what that was like, what you said to yourself. And I think, you've already kind of done this with your weight and with your lifestyle. I mean, I can't even imagine the self-limiting beliefs you had in that process. So, during those dark times of feeling like you couldn't do it or second guessing yourself, how do you battle through that?
That's a tough one because it's been different for different challenges. Like, for example, in the 50 miler with 6 miles to go, I left the last aid station. My arch collapsed in my right foot.
Oh.
And it felt like somebody was driving a dagger into my foot every time I took one step. So I was like, oh, do I turn around? I'm like, if I turn around, I'll quit. And I was like, nope, not doing that. So I was just like, okay, just one foot in front of the other, just keep going. And so and this was like leaning on social support. So my dad is one of my best friends. He was my high school football coach. And when I got cell phone service, like I was like crying because it hurt so bad. Call my dad. And he's like, how much further do you have to go? Because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. My foot hurts so bad. And I was like, I have 4 miles. His response was, shut the blank up, get moving and finish. And he hung up.
Oh my gosh.
But we have that relationship where I was like, all right, we're going. So, and then I finished that. And I mean, that was one time. I mean, there's times where Twin Cities Marathon, that stupid climb from the river to the St. Thomas.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's just like one foot in front of the other. Just keep moving and you're going to get done.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I approach endurance, period. It's like if I slow down, it's going to take longer.
Yep.
So
I'm the same way.
Get it done.
So just deal with this pain and it'll be done.
Yes.
It's not like it goes on forever. And I think that's the other thing about the 100 miler. It's like, it's only a day. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's done. It's not like I have to deal with this for the next 6 months.
Right.
What about not endurance? What about food or wanting to partake in other quote unquote unhealthy habits?
I think I've now to the point where I have this, I stole this term, but I'll use it like blast and dust. So like when I'm in blast mode, nutrition's on, like my workouts are on, and everything's just locked in. Like when it's dust, like I'll still do, like I'll hit my protein, drink water, eat like a child, have chicken wings and tater tots like for dinner.
That sounds good.
And then, but I'll keep working out, and then when it's time, like you just flip the switch because you can't be, balls to the wall all the time.
But I think that's such a good point of like, you're always taking care of yourself and showing yourself that I am doing this. I'm still doing things that to keep that momentum, to keep those promises you told yourself. You're thinking of, can I trust myself to continue on this path? Yes, because I'm still getting my workouts in. I'm still drinking my water. I'm still doing things that are taking care of myself. Yeah. And I think that's got to be key to the whole thing is each day, what am I going to do that's going to be consistent still so that I can have the flexibility to be a bit more diligent or not,
Yep.
But that had to have been a learning process.
Oh, 100%. Because like I know myself now, like I can grind hard on both for about 6 months before the wheels come off. And so like I'm at that 6 month mark before, well, not really, but I'm easing into nutrition now. Training is training. And then, when it comes time to really dial it in, like I probably won't drink the month of September and first half of October to get ready for the 100 and just start incrementally changing some things as I go to get ready for that race. Cause it's going to be hell on my body. I know that. It's not healthy.
So why do you do it then?
It's just the next thing. Like I wanted to do 100. I was signed up to do one the same year I did the 50, but I was like,
you were going to do a 50 and a 100 the same year?
Yeah.
We got to step it up.
I mean, I guess you're already training. People say that about marathons. I'm like, why would you do them 2 weeks apart? I'm like, because I'm in shape.
Right.
I've got the mental toughness and the confidence that I just did it. Like, it's going to be way easier actually to do them back to back.
Well, and that was kind of the thing. So I did the 50 miler and then I was like, okay, I need a break from running. And then on a whim, I signed up for Twin Cities that year. I didn't train for it, but I was like, I ran 50 miles like 8 weeks ago. I can do this. And then I was signed up for the 100. And like when I finished that race, I'm like, I am so sick of running right now. So I was like, I'm not doing it. And so I signed up for it once before. It was a different race. I mean, I just think it's cool too. It's going to be like selfishly fun to say, hey, I ran 100 miles. Like I did that. Like
showing yourself that you can do these things that you never thought you could.
Oh,
it's addicting.
If you had asked me 6 years ago if I was ever running more than a 5K, I would have laughed at you.
That's crazy. That's wild because that's not that long ago. But I mean, since you've created these decisions and you've created this new way of life, I mean, you have a family and you're running multiple businesses. You've got a family, you got a house, you've got career, now training for this. Like, how do you balance all of the things? Like, what are your kind of techniques for making this all float?
Jolene.
Yeah.
And I mean, it helps that my commute to a gym is 3 seconds. Walk out the door, go to the garage lift, walk downstairs, get on the Peloton, walk upstairs, get on the Peloton. I mean, I don't have to leave the house. So like sometimes Knox will like sit in his little chair and eat snacks and I'll talk to him when I'm running or, when Sutton was littler, I'd put her in the running jogging stroller, take her with. I try to do a lot when they're not home and get that done. But I mean, before I signed up for the 100, me and Jolene had to have the conversation. I'm like, it's 16-hour weekends, like the last couple of weeks of training. I'm like, are you on? She's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, Okay.
Does she think you're nuts, or is she like, no,
She's like, that's my man.
It's normal now.
Yeah.
I mean, like on our fridge, we have two things, and that's it. And one says you got to do the work, and the other one says harden the blank up.
Nice.
And those are the two.
What
things.
happens when your kids can read?
Well, Sutton's favorite song is Kid Rock and Machine Gun Kelly, Bad Mother. And she'll like run around the house singing it. So
She's learning that.
I mean, she knows situational language, and Jolene's a speech therapist, so like she
Right.
knows she can't sit in front of her grandmas.
Yeah.
She can say
That's a good skill to teach your kids,
Yep.
you know, because it's not like they're not going to hear swear words, you know.
And it's like you can say it in front of daddy's dad, but you can't say it in front of mommy's dad. And then you can't say it at daycare, and it's whatever.
That's awesome.
So.
She must be a smart little girl.
So that answers that question.
How do you manage your time with all these things? Working out 16 hours a day and multiple jobs and kids and
Like it's, if you look at my Google Calendar, like my workouts are scheduled in there. Like everything's in there. Like you were saying, you don't use your phone calendar that well, and I live off of mine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some days it's not perfect. A couple weeks ago, I did this Pelafondo thing, and I started at 3:45 in the morning because I wanted to be done by.
What is that?
It's like a big group ride on Peloton.
Okay.
And I was on a team with a bunch of people from First Form, and we all committed to doing 100 miles on Saturday on a spin bike. It was real fun. And I wanted to be done by 10, so I'm like, I got to start before 4. So
for people who don't know what First Form is, can you talk about it and how you got into it?
So it's a supplement company. I started using the supplements well before I started working for them. And then I got brought on as like an independent salesperson, and now I'm a sponsored trainer with them. So,
Whoop! That's amazing. Congratulations.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
So inside of that, like I coach people for free, who are trying to like either gain muscle, lose weight, get their shit together. And that's probably one of my favorite things now is like and this wasn't me like 5 years ago. I love seeing other people win more than like I want success for myself. And that's like my favorite thing now. I got goosebumps talking about that.
How did that happen? Like, how did that, like, was there a moment for you?
No. One thing I've noticed about like, because I have some friends now who are like way more successful than me. And I've noticed like the more they help other people, the better they do. And it's fun. Like it's not
about them.
No, and it makes it like have purpose. And
Yes.
It's just not, hey, take this protein powder. You'll have
Totally.
magical gains. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
you eat a gram of protein a day. You have a cheese stick. Okay, can you drink a shake? It'll help a little bit. You need some protein in your life. You know, and then they start to see changes. And now all of a sudden, you know, they're signing up for marathons. They're doing the Dopey Challenge.
What's your favorite client success story?
One in the works. So maybe we'll be able to talk about that in a year. Awesome kid. He's 24, but I don't know why you call him a kid. But one person, Renee, I talk about her a lot. She lives in California. She's one of my cousin's friends. She came to me. I made a post on Facebook. I just said, comment if you're in. And 3 years ago, she said, I'm in. Her story, she lost her mom when she was in her 30s. And she's like, she's like, I want to be fit before I'm 40 because then I'll outlive my mom. And so she like got her shit together, and now, you know, she's lives life comfortably, like between 145, 150. She was in the 180s for a while. She was in the 240s at some point in her life. But she's like done multiple marathons. She did the Dopey Challenge. She's done.
Can you say what the Dopey Challenge is for people that don't know?
Oh, so it's on Thursday you run a 5K, Saturday you run a 10, or Friday you run a 10K, Saturday's a half marathon, and then Sunday you do the full marathon.
Which this is something I want to do because I don't want to bike or swim and I don't want to do the Ironman, but I want to do the Dopey Challenge because I feel like it's not an ultra or anything crazy, but it's kind of like, how's your mental toughness?
Yeah.
Back to back to back days. I definitely want to do that. I think it's in January.
Yeah, it is.
Once like COVID's not.
Yeah.
Is it a Minneapolis thing?
No, it's
No, it's on the grounds of Disney World.
yeah.
Yes.
Fun.
Yes.
I'm not going to do it, but
Let's all go together.
I want to do it too. So,
Okay, fine.
Sorry,
I'll do
not
it.
to interrupt. I want to hear more about her though.
but I mean, she's talked about now she has the confidence. She's like taking risks at work, applying for jobs she would never get, thought she would ever get, and she's got multiple promotions. Like she's like, if you follow her on social media, like she does not care what anybody else thinks of her anymore. Like she will tell you right to your face of anything that, you know, could be controversial.
That's awesome. I bet she saw kind of your approach and was like, I think I need this guy, because she probably knew deep down that's who I am. You know, and there is something about physical fitness where, you know, everyone for some reason has this idea in their mind of what they're capable of. They have this ceiling. They have this, it's like something my parents said to me when I was younger, and it just sticks with them, and they think that's who they are. And then when you sign up for a race of any kind or some type of challenge, I guess it doesn't have to be that, but that's just my jam, and you do it and you show yourself like, I can do the craziest stuff I never even thought. Like, I didn't even know I wanted to run a marathon when I was younger. And now I'm addicted to it because it's like, could I do this faster? Could I do this faster after having one kid? Could I do this faster after having 3 kids? You know, and you just, for some reason, you have this feeling like, eventually I'm not going to be able to get better, but if you believe in yourself and you keep showing yourself that I can put in the effort, I can get up earlier, I can run faster, I can lift weights. Like, you show yourself like, I can do things I never thought I'm capable of. I could sign up for a 100-mile race. I mean, hell no, I will mark my words.
Could,
not
if
doing
you
it.
if you told your brain, like, your brain believes what you tell it. Your thoughts create your feelings, create your actions. And so whatever you were told as a little kid, these things that stick with us of, I can't, whether it was your parents told you something or you overheard your parents saying something, that sticks with you. And we don't know that, but it's in our subconscious. And then you realize, okay, well, I need to start telling my brain that I can do it.
Or try it, just like try. Like, a lot of people are, especially women that have like bigger chests, or they're built in a way that, like, for some reason they're told like, oh no, you're not a runner. You could never be a runner. They believe it. And I'm like, who told you this? And why do you still believe it? Like, can you listen to me? And I'll tell you that you can run any body type. If you watch a marathon, it does not matter your body type. There are all kinds of shapes, sizes, ages. Doesn't matter.
You got to unpack that belief and where it came from. Just like you, Ray, were talking about, of no, I'm going to create a new identity of who I want to be.
Yeah. And I mean, some of that too, when you started talking about that, it brought me back to a New Year's Eve party I was at, because 2 things fuel me, like myself and like people doubting me. And somebody told me at this New Year's Eve party that you'll never run like a sub 4-hour marathon. And I've done a couple now, but like, still in the back of my mind, like during training, or like, you know, that 20-mile mark when it just really starts to suck, all I think about is that person.
Use it as fuel. I love that.
And like, I really want to call them out at some point, but like,
do you want to right now?
No, because I still use it.
Oh, okay.
And this was, you know, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But I still, like, it still pisses me off to this day. And like, Andy has a quote, Andy Frisella, and it's like, it sticks with me still. It's like, I still have that little chip on my shoulder from when I was fat, and like people would tease me, or like my friends would joke about it. It's, you know, work so hard, become what you want. So when you walk in a room, those people have to look at the floor.
Oh,
that's good.
Oh.
And I love.
Can you say that again?
Well, that's the edited version.
Oh, okay.
So it's, you know, work so hard to do what you can, to do what you want. And that's the gist. It's, so when you walk in the room, those people have to look at the floor.
That's amazing.
So that's, I know there's 2 sides, like fueled by hate, and then things I want to do.
It also shows that you can control how you look at it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can use that to be like, they're right, I can't do it. Or like, nope, I'm going to show those people that I can do it.
Look at me now.
Bitch.
I was just going to say that.
Sorry.
So, I mean, and I think that's important in the beginning, for, you have to know why you're doing it. And if you do, great. But if you don't, that's, I think, another, you know, the health coaching piece.
Yeah. If your why isn't strong enough, you're not going to stick with it.
There's no how if there's no why.
Ooh.
So
You are
How do you-
full of them today. I like this.
When someone comes to you and is like, I am sick of looking this way, I need to make a change, but they are not certain on their why, how do you recommend that someone digs deep and solidifies that why?
going back to my red brick training, like I do motivational interviewing with people. Like, okay, so, you know, somebody who I'm working with right now needs to lose about 125 pounds. They have like a superficial why, so like they half-ass it a lot. So like we've been talking.
What's a superficial why? Like, what are they saying?
I just don't like how I feel. I want to feel better. Doesn't mean anything. Like, and he's young too. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have family. He's still in school. But it's, we're starting like, and we have a good relationship now where I can actually like needle on him and, pick on him a little bit and figure out like what do we want to do? And we finally got to that place last week.
Nice.
So, I mean, he went from averaging like 1,200 steps a day to 7,500 this week.
Nice.
So, I mean, now the ball's rolling. And I think, too, it goes to him. He lied to himself constantly, always broke promises. He has, the confidence of a chihuahua, but that's starting to build now that he's,
keeping the promises.
Keeping a promise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Building the confidence. And I think once that confidence flicks for him.
So what were some of those questions that you asked him to switch that superficial into a legit, meaningful why?
So we were in the middle of a workout and I was like, you pay me a lot of money to come here 3 times a week. Like, I charge $100 an hour for a personal training session. I'm like, and you come here 3 days a week, every week.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? And then he went into his, bullshit. And I was like, not good enough.
Dig deeper.
I was like, I get it. You're uncomfortable. You don't like how you feel. Like, I've been there. But when your roommates, order DoorDash 7 times a week, why are you going to say no?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only time he hasn't talked for like 5 minutes. And then he actually dug deep about things he wants to do that he can't do now. Like super important things to him. And I had no idea. So I've been a shitty trainer for, I guess, the last year. And he's a friend of mine too. Like I'll go hang out at his house and it's weird because, they're 12 years younger than me. And I was like, what are we doing? I don't know what to do.
That's what I do with Brooke.
Age is just a number.
Brooke always says words. I'm like, huh? Illy? What's illy mean? She's like, you don't know what illy means?
It means I love you.
I'm lost.
Okay, thank you.
So I told him, I was like, look, if you don't make changes, you're going to die. And he kind of had that, deer in headlight, like, oh. Then I started rattling off everything he could die from.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when I could see it was sinking in, like I know him well enough now where I could keep pushing on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finally like snapped at me a little bit and I was like, yes.
Yes.
Like that's the first time he's shown emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right. And then since then he's like, okay, what do I need to do?
That's awesome.
I was like, well, playing Call of Duty for 12 hours a day is not helping.
Yeah. That's so crazy too, because it's like, were those things always in there and he just wasn't connecting to it? Or was he just afraid to say it out loud to someone? Like, do you just need someone to pull it out? Like, that's the thing with being a coach is you never really know, am I not doing my job well enough? Or are they not digging deep enough? Are they just not telling me,
Yeah. And I think part of it too that I've noticed is my clients who I just email and text are getting better results than people I see face to face.
Really? Why?
Because they can be more vulnerable.
That, and if we're talking, I see you, I see the pain you're in. Instantly, I'm a little bit more empathetic.
Okay.
And I think when it's just email, it's words. Like, I don't see what you're saying. Like, you're not doing it. We need to move. Like, but if somebody's standing in front of you, you're not going to just be like, I'm going to be a dick. And you look like somebody just kicked your dog, So, I mean, that's something too, where I've noticed is like the face-to-face interactions. Yeah, they're maybe a higher quality, but I think it sets us back a little bit because you're just going to be nicer to someone when you're talking to them. It's like on social media, like half the shit people say to each other, they wouldn't say if they were sitting across from each other.
Yeah. I have a question. Like when you have a potential client, do you screen them and are you like, I need you to know that I'm not super nice to you? Like I have this tough love, no excuses, like nobody cares, work harder mentality? Or do you feel like they just know because they have seen your platform?
So I do a phone call with everyone first. And since it's not like my main source of income, like I don't work with people I don't think will be a good fit.
Okay. Smart.
And especially people like training clients at my house. I'm like, if you're coming to my house, I really need to like you. Yeah. Right. So, like I'll turn down people that'll be like, hey, I just don't want you at my house. Like, I don't want to hang out with you for an hour. But then, like talking to people on the phone, you can also hear, are they actually in?
Yeah.
And I'll explain like, I'm be like, busy's not, everyone's busy. Right. It's not, if you say you're busy and that's why you ate like a child for 5 days, like it's not going to work. You know, so if you're busy, maybe now's not the best time. You know, figure out your life first, and then let's talk about it later. But I think that's, you know, if they find me on social media, that's, you know, I write like I talk, and my wife hates it because I have like grammar errors in there. And, so I think that's known, like if you come to me that way. And then the other part of it is, I think certain people get sick of their own bullshit. And when they get to that point, they're ready to hear it. It's when you're not ready, truth sounds like an attack. And that's kind of like, I think my gap in my coaching is working with people who aren't quite there yet. A, because right now I just don't have the time to put in the work to do that. And B, I think it's super valuable if they get to that point where they're sick of their own shit on their own.
That's awesome.
It also shows you that a lot of times it takes having an outside perspective, a coach, to push you, because our mind is strong. It loves being safe. That's how it's hardwired to protect us and keep us comfortable. And we need someone to not only ask us these hard questions that are going to dig deep and have these true emotions and the real why come to life, but also just to tell us how it is and to be like, you're right, that is a freaking excuse. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious how your business works. So obviously you have your personal training clients that come to your house that you've screened and you've figured out that this is going to work. This is come to my house. But the people that you do online or texting or email, are they personal training clients? You give them plans and you also coach them? How does that work for you?
So anybody that works with me, like, has access to me whenever they need. So like I do a lot of, you know, health coaching type stuff with a majority of my clients, especially in the beginning when they need it. And, you know, it depends too. Like most people come to me because they have something they want to do. It's not just, you know, look better naked. It's they have something they want to do.
Like run a marathon or you mean like that?
Yeah, I've trained a couple people for hundreds or like bikini shows, like physique athletes, stuff like that. They have something they want to do. So they already have that little bit of a fire themselves. But I mean, with anything, like you get into, you know, peaking for a marathon, it's not fun. You don't want to do, you know, some of the workouts and, you know, that's where, you know, I'll start to coach too, a little bit more advanced people. So I'll do, you know, their training plans, you know, and nutrition to match those training plans.
Just a one-stop shop. You've got supplements too if people need them. So where could they find you? So if they're like, I want to work with Ray, I need some tough love, I want to drop my excuses, I want to look at his shirt, nobody cares, work harder. How do they find you?
Easiest way is just email me.
Okay.
If you have show notes, we can put it in there.
Yeah, we'll definitely put it in there.
Put my IG on there.
Just
half the world has my phone number already. So,
and Instagram is at Ray, RAYT Law,
yes.
LAW.
Yep.
Okay. And your email?
raylaw911@gmail.com.
911. Perfect.
I've had that since I was a senior in high school, I think.
That's great. Well, I want to be mindful of your time and our listeners' time, and we're so grateful that you're with us today. Do you have any last minute thoughts, anything you want to leave our listeners with to wrap up?
Yeah, that was actually something I knew you'd probably ask something like that. And this is my biggest pet peeve in fitness right now and in health is like your goals are your goals, not your coaches. And I think like I've seen a couple people posting on it lately, like, well, my coach tried to talk me out of doing this. You're paying them, they're not paying you.
Yeah.
So like, and I see this with my wife, she's like, I want to get like that 4-week outlook for the summer, like from a bikini show. And like her friends will be like, oh, you're a mom, you don't need to do what. It's her goal. So like your goal is your goal. And I think that's something that needs to be said, like, cause it almost feels now people are ashamed to like want to like lose weight or better themselves. And that's like something I talk to my clients a lot about. It's yours. So
own it.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what other people think. You wanting to do it is reason enough.
Yep.
And it's burning inside you. Like, listen to it, write it down, get a coach, talk it through, tell your friends, I know this isn't something you agree with, but this is what I want and I'm going to work towards it. Please support me because I love you and I would support you,
Yep.
Life is short. Do you, boo?
Yes.
All right. Well, moving into that, we wrap up our show with 3 gold stars, right? So these are 3 takeaways. I know that was a really great takeaway, but do you have any, if you had to say 3 main things that you want our listeners to leave with, what would they be?
3 gold stars. Okay. Number 1, you are in control of everything that you do. It's not your wife's fault. It's not your husband's fault. Don't blame anything on your kids. That's a hill I'll die on. You have the time. If you watch the Queen's Gambit, you could have ran a couple 10Ks. Okay? You have plenty of time to get things done. Do it. 2, going back to your goals are your goals. And it goes into the no one cares, work harder. The only person that actually truly cares about what you're doing is yourself. Your husband, wife might support you, but they don't care. Like, they want to see you do well, but they're not as invested into it as you are. Don't expect them to be, and don't expect anyone else to be. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is do things that scare you. And that's...
Ooh, I like that.
And the 100-miler terrifies me because people die doing them. Mm-hmm. So...
Oh my God, please don't die. We need you back on the show. That was great. I love it. Okay. Next up, Unleashing Ivy. So these are our 3 rapid fire questions. So first thing that comes to mind, whether it be a word or a phrase. Are you ready?
Go.
All right, Ray, what's one thing you say to yourself when you're trying to get motivated?
Don't be a bitch.
I like it.
All right. When you're really struggling with limiting beliefs, what's one thing that steers you in a positive direction?
My kids.
Oh, they're so cute. All right. And what is one thing you wish you would have known sooner?
Nothing. Because if you're not young and dumb, you can't be old and wise.
Oh my gosh, I like that. All right.
That's good. All right. Well, before we leave our audience with a piece of gold, quote, we just want to thank you so much for joining us.
It was fun.
Your wisdom and your light, even though it's tough love, we all needed to hear it.
I love it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I think that so many things that you said today can be takeaways, and not just for endurance events, for life, for wanting more for yourself and for challenging yourself. I think if people don't follow you already, they should, because you give so much gold to people all the time. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and being you. Like, this is the Ray that I like more than any of the other Rays that I've met before. I just feel like you're just getting better and better and more inspiring every single day. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're going to make me cry.
Now it's time for our piece of gold.
So this quote comes from a friend of mine. He was a Navy SEAL sniper on Task Unit Bruiser, like with Chris Kyle. He works for Jocko.
American Sniper?
Yep.
Wow.
He works for Jocko, who's like somebody, I look up to.
Extreme Ownership?
Yep.
I'm just going to keep piping in. Sorry.
It's fine.
The author of Extreme Ownership, right? That book? Okay.
So I got to know JP through stuff with First Form, and we just kept in contact, and we talk a lot. And one thing he said to me one time, it was last summer, I think, he said, you can make an excuse or you can make things happen. You can't do both.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.